What is going on YouTube? This is Jim back with another video. Today taking a look at the Dark Souls series, Trading Figures Volume 1 box of 6 figures that I picked up at Big Bad Toy Store. They ran me about $105 US plus shipping. I just got them today and I thought it would be fun to take a look at all of them with you. Now, the box is on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side is the individual boxed products inside of the larger box. All of the boxes that were individual were the same, so I was a little worried. I was like, oh my god, did I really just get 6 Solairs? But no, I did not. But what I love about this is some of the attention to detail in the figure. And if you've played the game, any of the Dark Souls games, and these characters do vary across a couple of the different games, you can just see some of the attention to detail in the character model. Now, they're all connected via these 2 small little pins at the bottom of their feet. That's kind of misleading in the promotional material. It kind of almost gave the impression that you would be able to stand these up independently. That is not the case. They do stand into the base. One of the things I like is you'll notice on some of the character bases, not all of them, they have the summon signal at the bottom. And actually, Solaire has the only one of this collection that is the gold summon, which I thought was just a really neat little touch. So you have that traditional, the Soul Stone Soap, I think it's called, that you can summon to have them help you fight various bosses and help progress their quest through the game. But I thought that was a neat little touch that they added, not to all of them, but obviously the ones you can summon. There you see his weapon and all the detail on his tabard and his helmet and the feather in his hat, and that's awesome. I love it. And the card's really nice too. All the cards have the figure on the front. It says Dark Souls series pre-painted figures, and I believe that's their name written in Japanese across the bottom. I could be incorrect. All of the cards on the back have various artwork, and there you can see Solaire holding his arms up, checking everybody out, being like, yo, check me out. So that's really, really cool. That's the first figure that I got. The next one that I got is the Firekeeper, and there you can see her right there. I'll show you her back of her card first, I guess this time, mix it up for you. And then I'll go ahead and display it at the front. You could see that while I'm talking a little bit about her. The Firekeeper was the NPC in Dark Souls 3 at the Firelink Shrine. She was the one who basically helped you level up. And she had an important role to play depending on how you wanted to kind of actually play through the game using the Dark Sigil and all that wonderful stuff. I really like this character model here. She was always very, very mysterious. And, you know, I think this is one of those things where when you look at some of the character models from the game, they didn't look, I feel, obviously this is this chibi style, right? I mean, because they have kind of larger than life heads. And that makes kind of sense, you know, for the artwork style. But the attention to detail in her cloak and in her face mask there, and even like the braids in her hair, some of that wasn't really that readily clear to me in the game, because Dark Souls wasn't really the best like optimized game, right, in terms of how pretty it looked. So it's nice to kind of see these art assets realized in a slightly different way, and I'm very, very happy for that. Here's our first villain, essentially, one of the bosses that you'll fight in the game. This is Knight Artorius. Now, he was actually DLC in the original Dark Souls in the Artorias of the Abyss DLC. There you could see his playing card back, and then I'll show you the front. I absolutely love this character's pose. The way he's kind of leaning forward. He's got his arm hanging out with all of his fingers splayed out like he's getting ready to swing this massive sword, which has tons of detail. So we can look at the detail here on his tabard in the front and the attention to detail on his helmet. Moving over, you could see some of the armor on his leg. A really cool tabard shot in the back with some of the chain link material. And then you can get a really good look at his sword there. Really, really, really cool. I bet a lot of people probably didn't get into the DLC in Dark Souls. The first game definitely did not run very well on the old PlayStation hardware, and as a result, I bet a lot of people kind of skipped out on that. Although maybe in the remastered, I don't know, they went back and checked it out. But he's a really, really cool villain, and I love the bosses in these games. They are absolutely larger than life, and he was definitely a tough challenge. So really cool to see that in this box, they're not just including the quote-unquote good guys, but they're also actually including some of the villains you'll meet as well. This is not one of those villains, though. This right here, and he has his own little fire, which interestingly enough wasn't actually connected at all to the base, which I thought was interesting that it just lays loose. But it's very clear that the fire is meant for him because he's holding his hand out. But this is Oscar, the Knight of Astora, and you meet him very, very early on in the game. You probably most likely wear his armor for at least some portion of the game because he is one of the first NPCs that you encounter in the original Dark Souls, and he doesn't make it very far, obviously. You can listen to his tale, he'll give you an Estus flask, and then unfortunately he doesn't make it. But he's actually really, really cool, and I think a lot of people kind of look at artwork of Oscar specifically. Definitely in a lot of the Dark Souls art that I have seen, and Oscar is kind of like essentially the player character, I think, in a lot of ways. Because he just has that kind of default looking knight armor there. You can see he's got his sword on his back hip. He's got some utility pouches there. Just lots and lots of attention to detail. Notice he actually has the summon sign as well. And he's got the little bonfire there. He's holding it out. The way that the promotional material showed this character posed, he was kind of in the center and everybody was huddled around him. I love the attention to detail in the tower shield, especially since he's holding it upside down. And it's just really, really well done. So let me move on to the next figure. There you can see my slightly damaged box in the corner. Thanks, Big Bad Toy Store. I know you guys tried to box it well, and maybe just the post office was a little rough with it. I don't know. It's hard to say. Here's another major villain for you guys. This is Dragon Slayer Ornstein. I'll go ahead and show you the back of his card first. And here is the front. I'll put it over there. You could check it out while we're looking at Dragon Slayer Ornstein. He is one of the baddies in the original Dark Souls, but he is mentioned a few other times, actually, in Dark Souls 3 specifically. And he is definitely one of kind of the final bosses that you're going to go through. He's got this really, really, really vibrant gold armor meant to represent a lion. And there you can see his really cool lion kind of almost mane coming out the back where his hair wraps around. You could see lots of attention to detail again on his armor on the side and his infamous weapon there. You can see that giant kind of spear that he swings around. He is really, really, really fun to fight against. He's actually part of like a 2-player fight, if you remember. He was in Anor Londo towards the end, and you had to fight him and Executioner Smaw at the same time. So lots of attention to detail there. He really pops, I think, more than any of the other characters, namely because of his gold armor, but just the way it pops against his kind of silver undercoat, and then you could see a little bit of the red tabard there. He's definitely one of the cooler characters, I think, that's stylized in any of the Dark Souls games, and I'm really glad that they decided to include him in this set. And last, and most certainly not least, we have this guy right here. This is none other than Siegward of Catarina. Oops, you probably hear me dropping the other figures in the background. Here's the front of his card. Actually, let me show you the back of his card. There's the back of his card there. Siegward was in Dark Souls 3. He is synonymous with the slang term the Onion Knight, which is actually kind of considered a negative way to talk about these guys because they have this giant armor which resembles an onion. Now, in the game, he definitely has a massive head, and he actually looks, this is actually the most, of all the characters, he's like the most to scale, definitely, because of this giant head. The chibi style actually isn't wide enough. If it was chibi style, his head should be even larger, but he had a giant helmet. He carries this massive armor. I think it was the strongest armor in the game, if I recall correctly. He has a really, really cool quest line as well. And, you know, kind of working with him, he's got a quest that you can eventually unlock the special brew. That's, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it right, Siegbrow, basically. But it's really, really just, he had a really interesting quest line. I'll just leave it at that. Lots of attention to detail here. What I think really stands out about him, obviously, his giant mushroom or his giant onion type armor, but he's got this really cool shield with a spike on it that sticks out kind of far in the figure, which I think definitely adds a really cool flair to it. So there you have it. Let me move this card out of the way. I'll put them all back up briefly. This is an awesome, awesome set. You know, I am a big fan of Dark Souls. I think I've talked about this at some point in the past, obviously. It's one of my absolute favorite franchises. I feel like the artwork is definitely something that, I don't know if I'm going to get them all in the shot. I feel like the artwork in this game has just been so, like, celebrated over the years by artists and by figures and by some of the statues and stuff that you can collect. But let's move him over so you could see. There we go. And I just love this set. The fact that it comes with the little trading cards, the fact that they all have their own base. Some of the bases have the light up symbols, some of them don't. The attention to detail, the heft of them. It's a really, really nice set. Just looking back at the product site before I wrap up this video, each of the figures stands 4.33 inches in height, which is about 11 centimeters. They're made of both ABS and PVC. And there's a fun set. I believe there are other box sets coming. I know a lot of these were sold independently before. Some of them were sold independently before, but this is such a cool set to have. I got to find a nice way to display them, especially with the cards behind them, you know, which has nice artwork of the figure as well, and just really wonderful attention to detail. So I didn't do a video actually opening them because it was a pain in the butt, because you had 6 of the same boxes that were very, very heavily packed. Despite that my shipping box had a slight buff in the corner, it was very well packaged, and I was able to get, really nice high quality figures that look wonderful. No blemishes in the paint or scratches or bends. All the weapons are nice and straight. They did a phenomenal job keeping this protected. So very, very well done by AC Toys. And I'm glad that I was able to get this from Big Bag Toy Store. And that's it for the video. Hope you guys thought this was cool. Let me know your thoughts and who's your favorite. There's some really good figures here. I think I have to go with Solaire, of course, because, praise the sun. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.